you too can decide that this depression stops here. This depression stops now.
It's time to exhale and be motivated. Annie's Blue Couch. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, to all of you, Annie's crew. Welcome back to the Annie's Blue Couch. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. Before we get into today's conversation, I want to remind you to please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and as always, please share this video with at least 2 of your friends. We are continuing our discussion on depression today. If you missed part 1, the link is right here, and I suggest you stop right now, go watch part 1, and then come back to this video for part 2. For those of you who did watch part 1, you learned the first 4 steps to getting over depression without medication. And now, let's dive right in to step number 5. Now, step number 5 may seem like it's not a real step, but I promise you it is. Step number 5. Decide to be happy. Make up in your mind that you will no longer live in a state of continual sadness and depression. Your mind is a powerful tool. And getting your thoughts aligned with who you know you are called to be is essential to kicking depression. There's a verse in the Bible that says, whatever you think about yourself is exactly who you will be. If you think thoughts like, I'll never get over this, or I'll never get out of here, or I just can't let this go, guess what? You'll never get over it. You'll never get out of there, and you'll never let it go. I was reading an article the other day from a sports psychology website. I was blown away at this study or experiment that they were discussing. There were 3 groups of people who were brought to a basketball court and told to do free throws. Their results were recorded, and each group was then given instructions to follow for the next 30 days. Group 1 was told to practice free throws every single day for an hour. Group 2 was told to think about practicing, to think about being successful, and to visualize themselves doing better for an hour each day. This group did not touch a basketball. Group 3 was told to do nothing. Don't think about basketball, don't touch a basketball, definitely don't practice basketball. As you can probably imagine, after the 30 days of doing nothing, Group 3 had 0 improvement. Group 1 had an average improvement rate of 24%. Now, Group 2, this is where the magic happened. They had an average improvement rate of 23%. Only 1% less than the group who actually practiced every day for an hour. What does this mean? Your mind has the ability to impact your actual tangible results. What you allow your mind to be engaged in has a direct result on what your body actually does. Now, I can give you 100 verses in the Bible to back this up, but I'm intentionally giving you something non-spiritual to process because sometimes our natural inclination rejects those spiritual things. And I really want you to understand that you have an unbelievable superpower in your own mind. And if you can get your mind to focus on your purpose, on your mission, on overcoming, you will rise above depression like an eagle soaring over life. I told myself I was done being sad. Now, that doesn't mean I never cried again. It definitely doesn't mean that all of a sudden rainbows and cotton candy came falling from the sky. But I was no longer consumed in what I had lost in my husband walking away. And I shifted my focus to being on God, His purpose for my life, and living above the sadness. You too can decide that this depression stops here. This depression stops now. Step number 6, retrain your brain. There's this saying that I've heard a lot, and I know you probably heard it too. It says, fake it till you make it. And I don't really like it per se, but I do like the idea behind it. And I want to change it to train it till you make it. You have to train your brain to think on good things. Train your brain to think on positive, happy, fulfilling thoughts, things that are good, things that make you smile, things that bring you happiness and peace and joy. I remember going on a fast where I know the Lord clearly spoke to me and asked me if He was not good enough for me. In other words, God was asking me, am I alive to be a wife or alive to fulfill His purpose in my life? I had to come to grips with the fact that the decision my husband at the time had made to walk away, that was what he needed. It did not mean that I was not a great person. It did not mean that I no longer had a purpose to fulfill. It did not mean that all of a sudden my life was not worth living and living in joy. Let me just interject here for all the people who are like, who is this guy? And how dare he leave Annie? I was no wonderful, joyous piece of perfection in our relationship. I was immature. I was selfish. I made decisions that drove him crazy. I was mean. I was cold. I was rude even at times. And I'm not saying this because I think I have to. I'm saying it because it's the truth. And I mentioned understanding others' perspectives in the process of forgiveness 2 weeks ago. If you missed that, the link is right here. But the point of me bringing that back up to add here is that people make decisions based on hurt, based on self-preservation, and a host of other things. And you cannot attach someone else's decision for their life to your purpose. Yes, you certainly, most likely impacted their choice, but it was their choice to do whatever it was that was done. And now you have a choice to get back on track to fulfilling your purpose. Which brings us to step number 7. Remind yourself of your purpose and set goals. This step is exciting. When I took time to remind myself of who I am and who I'm called to be and what my purpose is, I just couldn't stop writing all the things I needed to do to get it accomplished. Before you know it, you'll be mentally engaged in the process of your purpose, and the hurt and the pain and the rejection or that loss or whatever caused you to enter into depression will be a distant memory. You'll probably never completely forget it, but the thought of it won't be as painful as you plan your future to be all that you can be. For me, I knew I wanted to write and produce some more songs. I wanted to get deeper in my knowledge of the Word of God. I wanted to develop my gifts more. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to travel and sing. I wanted to do so many things. And in the process of setting goals and timelines and writing it all down, ain't nobody got time for crying. Ain't nobody got time for that. What? Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Y'all remember that? You won't have time for dwelling on those things when you are fully engaged in planning and stepping into your purpose. So remind yourself of who you are, who you were called to be long before depression had a hold on you, and start to get on track. I went to voice lessons. I read and read and read. I wrote down all my plans, and I was able, with the help of God, to really set some order in place to move forward and leave depression behind. Now, the final step, step number 8, set boundaries. This final step is really demanding of yourself that you put your happiness and perspective on happiness into its rightful place. You see, things will continue to try to steal your happiness and try to set you off track from your purpose. But you have got to set boundaries on the thoughts of your mind and boundaries on the access to your heart. And truly understand where your happiness comes from and lean into that daily. In last week's video, part 1, during step number 2, which was to backtrack, I mentioned that I was last happy when I was happily married. When I said that, I said we'll discuss it in this video. And I specifically wanted to talk about that right here because too many times our happiness is wrapped up in the wrong things and the wrong people. My happiness should have never been tied to my marriage. I had to teach myself that my happiness cannot ever be entangled with someone else. My happiness can never be contingent on another person's choices, actions, words. Now, again, this isn't to say that all I do is smile all day. I certainly have moments of sadness, of regret, of negativity, and what people do and say still do affect me. You can't really get away from that. But how long the effect lingers and how much it interrupts your journey to purpose is totally and completely in your hands. I will never give that power to another person, and neither can you. And that doesn't mean you don't care and love and appreciate others. But when that caring and loving and appreciating is too high up on the list of priorities, you'll be back in the same pit of depression every single time someone fails you. I lean into God and His Word and His declarations over my life. I lean into prayer and I focus on being the me I know I am called to be. Boundaries are in place, honey. And when lines are crossed, all sorts of alarms start going off. Daily, I choose to not ignore the alarms. So let's recap the 8 steps to getting over depression. 1, acknowledge. 2, backtrack. 3, pray. 4, talk it out. 5, decide to be happy. 6, retrain your brain. 7, remind yourself of your purpose and set goals. And step number 8, set boundaries. I have boldly and unapologetically left depression in the dust. And I want you to do the same. Shine bright as you take one step at a time towards your purpose. I am challenging you, if you are struggling with depression, to take these 8 steps too. I want to motivate you and inspire you to hold your head high as you stomp out depression and march on to your purpose. Until next time, remember that you are beautiful. You are special. Your smile is amazing. And don't let anyone or anything ever make you feel less than who and what God has designed you to be. Annie's crew, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Bye for now.
Annie's Blue Couch.